القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Aisha Ahmad Ajanako. Today we are going to discuss hadith about intention and sincerity.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. By the special grace of Almighty Allah, our today's lesson shall be on الإخلاص والنية. الإخلاص is sincerity and of purpose, and النية is intention. So we are going to talk about al-ikhlas, which is sincerity and intention today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Man kana yuridu الحياة الدنيا وزينتها نوفي إليهم أعمالهم فيها وهم فيها لا يبخسون أولئك الذين ليس لهم في الآخرة إلا النار وحبط ما صنعوا فيها وباطل ما كانوا يعملون. He says that whoever loves or wants the life of this world and the beauty of the life of this world, we shall give them the reward of their deeds in full, without reducing or without cheating them. But such people, they in the hereafter will not have anything but hellfire, and whatever they have done in this world will be destroyed, to be void. So this verse makes it very clear that when anything you want to do which is an act of worship has to be solely meant to seek the countenance of Almighty Allah and to seek the pleasure of Almighty Allah, then you will have a reward for it in this world and in the hereafter. But if you solely intend it just for worldly gains and for worldly praise, then you will not have anything in the hereafter. Allah will give you your reward in this world, and in the hereafter He will put you in the hellfire, because you have not intended with your acts of worship the countenance of Almighty Allah. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrated a hadith that he had the Prophet ﷺ saying, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ومن كانت هجرته لدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. This hadith is agreed upon by both Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim. And this particular hadith, which Umar bin Khattab narrated, is the first hadith with which Imam al-Bukhari opened his book known as Sahih al-Bukhari. So Umar bin Khattab is saying in this hadith that he heard the Prophet ﷺ saying, Innamal a'malu binniyat, that actions shall be judged according to intention. That means whatever actions you are doing, whatever acts you are doing in this world, whether they are good or they are bad, will be judged according to the intention you have. If your intention is good, then the action is good. And if your intention is bad, then the action is bad. Then he said, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى, and every human being will get the reward for whatever intention he has made. So if you intend good, you get reward for good, and if you intend bad, you get reward for bad. Then he gave an example of what these first two sentences meant. Then he said, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, gave an example of people who migrate for the sake of Almighty Allah and those who migrate for the sake of this world. He said, whoever migrates to Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he shall have the reward of one who has migrated for the sake of Allah and His Prophet. But whoever has migrated for the worldly things, for the mundane things of this world, either because he migrated to make money or for business, or in order to go and marry a woman, maybe in so place, then his migration shall be to that thing for which he intended and for which he migrated. So this hadith is known as the hadith of Muhajir Qais. It was said on the occasion of a man who migrated from Makkah to Medina in order to go and marry a woman that was known as Qais. That's why the learned scholars call it hadith Muhajir Qais. And that is why the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith gave an example of somebody who migrated because of a woman to go and marry. It is very clear that someone who left Makkah to Medina just because he wants to go and marry a woman is not because he wants to obey the rule given by Allah and His Prophet to migrate. It is very clear that he has migrated for worldly purpose, and he will not have the reward for his migration. In another hadith, this particular hadith, before we go to second hadith, this particular hadith, Imam Shafi stated that this hadith represents 1/3 of Islam. Even Imam Ahmed also mentioned that this hadith is considered one of the basic pillars of Islam. In the second hadith, Abu Hurairah ta'ala said, Sami'tu Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I heard the Prophet sallallahu saying, Inna awwala nasi yuqda yawm al-qiyamah alayhi rajulun ustushida fa utiya bihi fa arrafahu ni'amahu fa arafaha. Qala fama amilta fiha? Qala qataltu fika hatta ustushidtu. Qala kadhabt. لكنك قاتلت لأن يقال جريء فقد قيل ثم أمر به فصحب على وجهه حتى ألقي في النار. Abu Hurairah in this hadith is narrating to us what he heard from the Prophet ﷺ, that the first of human beings that will be judged on the day of judgment will be a man who was martyred, who was killed in the path of Almighty Allah. They will bring this man before Almighty Allah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will recount favors upon him in this world, and he would acknowledge those favors. I have given you this, I have done this for you, and he will acknowledge all of them. Then after that, Allah will ask him, what did you do with these things I have given to you? Then he will say, I fought in your path, I fought for your sake until I was martyred in your path. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, you have lied. But the fact is that you have fought so that it will be said that you are brave. And people have said it. It has already been said that you are brave. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give command to the angels to drag him straight away, and he will be thrown into the hellfire. It is because he has not intended to seek the countenance of Almighty Allah with his jihad or with his fighting, and he wanted the praises of people in this world, and he has gotten the praises. Therefore, he does not have anything in the hereafter except the fire. This ayah itself goes to buttress what the verse in Surah Hud said, which is the verse we began this lesson with. The second man who will be brought before Almighty Allah will be a man who studied and learned the knowledge and taught it to people, read the Qur'an. Then they will bring him before Almighty Allah. Allah will recount his favors upon him in this world, and he will acknowledge them. Then he will be asked. Allah will ask him, what did you do with all this knowledge I have given to you? Then he will say, I learned the knowledge and I taught it. I read the Quran for your sake. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, you have lied. The fact is that you learned the knowledge so that people will say, you are a learned man. You are an alim. And you read the Quran so that people would say, you can read Quran very well. It's a Qari. And people have said that. Therefore, you have nothing in my sight. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give the command to the angels to drag him, and he will be thrown in the hellfire. The third man who will be brought before Almighty Allah is somebody whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the favors of this world, has given him a lot of what? Wealth, different kinds of wealth, varieties of wealth. Then he will be brought before Almighty Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will recount his favors upon him, and he will acknowledge them. Then he will be asked, what did you do with all these words I have given to you? Then the man will reply, I did not leave any part in which you love that money is spent on that part, that except that I spent the money in it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell him, you have lied, but you did all this so that people will say, he is very generous, and it has been said. Therefore, you have nothing in my sight. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give the commands, and he will be dragged straight away and thrown in the hellfire. This hadith was transmitted by Imam Muslim in his Sahih. So this hadith is giving us 3 examples of people who live in this world, and apparently the acts they did appear as if they have done these acts for the sake of Almighty Allah. But the fact is that their hidden intention, which is only known to Almighty Allah, was fake, and the intention was not meant for the sake of Almighty Allah. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the command that they should be thrown into the hellfire. So that is why intention matters a lot in whatever one is doing. So intention is the basis of any act which we do in this world. So if whether your work or your actions will be accepted or rejected is based on the intention. So if you do a particular work or act and you devote all your intention, devote your mind, you are sincere in your devotion to Almighty Allah, and you are seeking the reward of the hereafter, and also you act according to the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you in this world and reward you in the hereafter. But if you intend other than Almighty Allah and you did not do the work you did or act, any action you have acted in sincerely for the sake of Almighty Allah, either by associating partners with Him, then your acts of worship will be rejected, and it will be a punishment for you in the day of judgment. So therefore, what we take from this hadith is that intention and sincerity of devotion are the basic conditions of accepting any act of worship. Because without intention, no act of worship will be accepted. Secondly, we also benefit that the apparent appearance of an act of worship does not necessarily mean that it will be accepted. What makes it acceptable to Almighty Allah is the sincerity of intention and devotion for Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, we need to correct our intention in any act of worship we are doing. So, to just cite an example of the difference between the effect of intention on any act that we do, is that, for example, if one is in a state of major impurity, janaba, and without intention he jumps into the swimming pool and takes bath, he will remain in that state of janaba forever, unless he makes an intention that he's bathing and is purifying himself from the state of janaba. Because just ordinarily jumping into a swimming pool does not mean that you have bathed, you have taken bath. Your bath will be regarded as a normal bath. But if you intend that, oh Allah, I want to purify myself from the state of janaba, and you jump into the swimming pool, you will be different from the other person who jumped without intention. Your jumping into the swimming pool will be an act of worship, and you will be purified from your state of janaba, while the other one will not. Wa sallallahu wa sallama ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.